So we're welcoming Mark Williams here to talk a little bit about what he's done over the last 50 or so years since he graduated from South. And this is anticipating our quote 50th reunion, even though it's year number 51, which I believe we're going to have September 18th. Is that right, Alan?
That is correct. I think I'm not sure, it's everything but official at this point.
Okay.
But I think now I think they've talked about the particular event location, they've talked to the people and those kind of things. So it looks like September 18th is Great. Everything but official.
That's terrific. So to kick this off, Mark, we would just love to have you talk a little bit about what you've done over the last 50 years. Where would you like to start?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say thank you both very much for doing this, especially Luanne for having come up with the idea to do these videos. So, well, when we were growing up, periodically we'd go down to Fresno, California to visit our relatives there. And of course, it was the middle of the winter and it's warm and sunny down there. And I used to say, wow, if I could only live in Fresno someday. And
beautiful so, downtown Fresno.
But California in general was all right. So I ended up applying to schools primarily in California based on people who were ahead of us in school who'd gone there who I looked up to. And of course, that included Andy's brother, John Tillman, and Ann Bartsch, who went to Stanford, some others, and Ramsey Embick's brother, Andy, who'd gone to Pomona. And then also Eric Cooley, a great tennis player 2 years ahead of us, had gone to Claremont Men's College. Now, I don't know exactly why I wanted to go to men's college, but there was a cluster of the Pomona or Claremont colleges that included several with women as well. And Thanksgiving of senior year, Thanksgiving week, I went down to visit the schools. And like a lot of people, I saw Stanford and fell in love with it. And that's where I really wanted to go. I was lucky enough to be able to go there. I also, for some reason, applied. There was one other guy, I don't even remember his name, or maybe two. I remember he's tall and thin, and he went to Whitman College in Walla Walla, Washington. And even though that violated my warm weather rule, I applied there as well. So that summer after I graduated, I worked in the canneries, played a couple tournaments. And when I got down to school, I really wanted to play a sport. And I looked at a number of things, including cross country, even rowing. I ruled that out because you have to get up too early. And I ended up enrolling in a class called tournament tennis, which was run by the varsity coach. And we played matches all quarter. And at the end of that, three of us got to move up to the regular team, which I felt very lucky about because I was hardly the best tennis player at South Salem. Many better players, including Alan Shiffer, of course, and several people before us. But that was a lot of fun. I played for 2 years. I got to play a couple of varsity matches, mostly doubles when we'd already, got locked up in the singles. And other than that, I played, junior college teams, JV teams from other schools, and it was a lot of fun.
So do a lot of Stanford people participate in sports? Or?
Very high percentage, because until this year when they cut out 11 varsity sports, they field a very large number of teams, 36 teams. Mm-hmm. And there's only 1,400 students or so in a class. So by definition, you have to have a lot of people doing that. And then there's a very big intramural program as well. So then I was looking at ideas for a major, and I happened across one that had just started, actually, as celebrating the Department of Selling its 50th anniversary this year. And it was rather unique at the time. It was completely interdisciplinary. And the core courses consisted of, for each quarter, 2 parallel classes, one in the biological sciences and one in the social sciences. For example, one quarter Paul taught population biology. And on the other side, one of the things that was taught was economics. And a lot of great people taught in that program. Jane Goodall talked about her work. Don Kennedy taught neurobiology, his specialty, and he went on to be commissioner of the FDA and president of the university and a variety of other things. And so, and I knew that I might want to go to medical school, so I took all the science classes, and spring of first year was the time to start biology, and I went for several weeks to all the biology classes and all the human biology classes. And hum bio was just so much more fun, so much better taught. And so that's what I ended up doing.
And so you directly out of college, you went to medical school?
Yeah, I did. A few other things I was going to talk about. So during the summers of college, I had various research fellowships. And the first one, my chemistry professor knew that I came from Oregon, and he'd gotten a posting for a National Science Foundation fellowship that happened to be at Oregon State University. So I did that the first summer, and it was really a lot of fun, both to do that. It was in atomic absorption spectrometry, and he was nice enough to put me as first author on the publication. But what was really fun was, in high school, I wasn't all that social. But that summer, a lot of us got together, as Luanne knows, and did a lot of really great things. We went to Ashland for see some Shakespearean plays and camped out. We went to the beach, had parties, and it was just really fun summer from that standpoint as well.
I remember that summer. That was a really, really fun summer.
And
I remember, didn't a bunch of guys go take a trip down to Lake Tahoe together and some things like that?
That was actually between high school and college.
Yeah.
And we did. And we drove through San Francisco. And
towing a boat
skis in the back of the station wagons. You go up and down the big hill. Some guys got hit by skis, and we brought our boat down there and did some water skiing and camped out. And that was really fun too.
Yeah. I remember. Oops, we can't hear you, Alan.
Alan, your audio's off.
We can't hear you.
Yeah. Just say the stories that can be told or shouldn't be told.
Right, exactly.
Those are the best ones, I think.
So let's see. So then after that, so back to sports. When I was a sophomore, there were a couple of guys in my fraternity house who were in the cross country team. One was the captain, and we had a great location for the house. It was on the lake, which was right near the golf course, which was right near the foothills. Great place to run from. So a lot of the team guys would show up on the weekends, go for long runs. And it looked like a lot of fun. And that spring, I told the coach that I wanted to run cross country next fall. And I told him I was going to be down in Santa Barbara doing another fellowship, UC Santa Barbara. And he gave me the names of a couple of guys. Now, I'd never run more than 10 miles in my life. And I got there the first week and they said, yeah, let's go out for a run. Well, it turned out it was 2 weeks before the Olympic trials marathon. And they were running their last long run, which is the course of the Santa Barbara Marathon course. So that was interesting. And I started immediately running 100-mile weeks that summer and had a lot of fun doing the research. It was at a place called the Institute of Environmental Stress. And we were doing studies that I could never do now because they were on dogs. But we were studying the effect of trace inhaled pollutants on cardiorespiratory function was the primary thing. So that was a really fun summer. Actually,
did your professors line you up with all these different research studies that you were?
Well, like I said, my chemistry professor told me about that one. And then in subsequent summers, I just looked for paid research fellowships.
Oh.
And there weren't a lot then, but I happened to find that one. And so that summer I had extra time, decided to go to Hawaii. And one of the places I went was Maui. And I just remember this, I was hitchhiking, and Patty Colley happened to come by and pick me up.
How fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Small world.
Yeah, funny. So anyway, I ran cross country that year, and the next year, both years, had a lot of fun doing that. And then my junior year, I'd had an interest from sophomore, junior year in health policy. And spring of my, actually I was going to go summer after junior year to work in Washington for Bob Packwood. And then I came up with another fellowship in research that summer. Then I went junior year instead in the spring and worked in Washington health policy. And then that summer I had a fellowship at USC. Actually, it was sponsored by the American Dental Association. It was kind of funny because everybody in the program was going to go to medical school. But I was supposed to work at UCLA. And then they changed their mind at the last second. They were going to send me USC. I said, no, not USC. And I argued every way I could to go back to UCLA, but it was no use. But when I was in Washington, I was running with the DC Roadrunners Club, and they took me to a marathon in Yonkers, New York, my first marathon. And it went really well. I ran a 2:35. I got 8th place, and the top 10 people, we would, no one would think of that these days. The top 10 people got engraved stopwatches, which of course no one uses anymore. And then I was in LA a couple weeks later, heard about the Palos Verdes Marathon. So I ran that. And then at the Palos Verdes Marathon, I heard about the AAU championships in San Mateo, and I had to go back up there to Stanford anyway. So I ran it. So within the course of 1 month, I ran my first 3 marathons. It was so much fun. I just couldn't get enough of them.
That's amazing. And so then you graduated from Stanford.
Yeah.
And then
a couple other connections at Stanford. I took a great course in 20th century history from one of Anne Aiken's relatives. I don't remember if it was her uncle, is Gordon Wright, and I can't remember exactly what the relationship was, but it's a close relative of hers.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, and then senior year, I got a really bad draw in the housing draw, but later on, I was able to move into a house. It was an old fraternity or sorority house, or it used to be one. It wasn't old, and Phil Schradel was living there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So continued those high school connections. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. And again, I'm so much looking forward to seeing everybody at the reunion. And it's like that summer after first year college. It's kind of like I may not have been close friends or spent a lot of time doing social things in high school, but I find that when you go back, all of a sudden everybody is friends with one another because you have that common experience.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's really great. That's a lot of fun.
And you have conversations sometimes just with people that you hadn't known as well, but you found some shared connections. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Or people, you remember something about them, what they did back then. That's a conversation starter. You may have other things in common too. Yeah. So that I'm really looking forward to that. I'm glad we're going to be able to have our 50th in 51.
That's right.
So yeah, I eventually decided to go to med school. I thought I decided I really didn't want to go to Stanford because I had to go somewhere else and have a different experience. And I looked around and I really wanted to go to Duke because it had a great clinical program. Also, as far as I knew, it was one of the 2 programs in the country that had a combined MD-JD program, the other being Northwestern. And I was interested in doing that because of, wanting to continue work in health policy. Talked to a number of, prominent people around the country who had both backgrounds and were doing a lot of work in health policy, and was advised, go to med school first and find a specialty, go out and practice and get a good sense of, what the issues are. And then you can go back and do the health policy piece if you'd like. So I got into Duke in November, my first school, and I started looking at it, I said, you know what, it's a beautiful campus, and I really like the programs there. It's a great clinical school, but it's really Southern. At that time, it was, everybody there was from the South in college, and not now at all. But I don't know. So I ended up deciding to go, and by spring of my senior year, I thought, wow, this is really nice here at Stanford. But it was too late because I didn't do anything to really try to get into Stanford, although I ended up on the waiting list. And I decided to go to a relatively new program at UC San Diego. And, of course, it's a great athletic environment and a lot of other things about San Diego that are good. Although the one thing is that it's not like a university campus. And I kind of wanted to continue in that vein, having those things available that you find on a campus. But we went to graduation, and I was driving home in a U-Haul back to Salem with my parents. And this epiphany hit me that, you know what, I really want to go to Yale instead. So I called Yale. I said, can I still come? They said, yeah. So I called San Diego and said I wasn't coming after all. And there were a number of things involved with that. One of which is my girlfriend from senior year was going to journalism school at Columbia, although that's really kind of short-term thinking because that's only a 1-year program. But her dad had gone to Yale Law School. Her brother was at Yale Law School as editor of the Law Review. And so I thought, well, and the thing is, everybody was really happy there at Yale, and part of it is because of the system. There are no mandatory tests or no real grades. You're graded by sort of written assessments, and even though it's really hard work, and a lot of people would work much harder in that system because of being uncertain. That was a really good thing about it, and So I ended up going there. New Haven's kind of a tough place. At the time, it's kind of a ghetto. We went back for the first time since I graduated June before last, and the transformation is astonishing. It's really, really nice.
Oh,
It's really gentrified. But so anyway, and one hard thing about it was that, unlike most schools that take 2 years, they did all of their basic sciences at that time. They've changed it now in a year and a half, in 3 semesters, which really compressed things. And then plus we were doing clinical work during that time. Plus we were, in the summer expected to do a clinical rotation, a clinical fellowship. But anyway, it was fun. And I did a lot of running while I was there. I ran with the cross country team wherever I could. The first couple of years I was running 130 miles a week approximately.
wow.
Sometimes the coach would let me work out with the tennis team. I was playing handball and playing squash. So I spent a lot of time playing sports. They have a great gym there, 8 stories high with everything you can possibly imagine. And then I was looking eventually at, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do as far as especially, but the one thing I really liked was sports medicine. And so I decided to do orthopedics, and they're really nice. They wanted me to stay there, but I could not have stayed in New Haven another day. So I really wanted to go back to Stanford, and I was lucky enough to get into that program. And so while doing my surgical internship back there, I realized it's more the internship probably, but I wasn't all that enamored of surgery, of actually being involved in the surgery in one specialty. But halfway through, everybody who was a surgical intern at some point did a rotation for 3 weeks in anesthesia. And I did that in my middle of my internship. I said, wow, this is great, because it's all the stuff I liked in medical school, dynamic physiology, pharmacology, and you get to work in the operating, but you work with every specialty there is, both in surgery and medicine. And so I ended up switching to anesthesia, and did that as well at Stanford, and then went on into private practice for a period of time, for many years.
Oh, how many years did you practice?
Well, in total, somewhat over almost 20.
Oh,
but I practiced for a number of years, but I wanted to go back. I still wanted to do public policy work, and I decided to go back to law school. I went back to Stanford, and while I was there, my first year, we took a great course, What Lawyers Should Know About Business, and was taught by, among other people, Charlie Munger, who's Warren Buffett's partner, and it was so great. And I realized, if I want to be effective in public policy, I should know something about business. So I applied, and I was able to get into the 4-year combined program for law and business. Worked in a law firm, and my last summer I worked at the suggestion of one of my law professors who'd been there at the Rand Corporation in Santa Monica, doing health policy research. And then after I graduated, they invited me back down, and I worked at Rand. And then I also taught half-time at UCLA in the medical school, which is what most of the docs did who were also working at Rand. And then after that, I eventually went back into private practice. I was doing business consulting, and eventually I went completely over to the dark side and then into business. And I was a medical director at several life science companies.
and that was after you'd practiced for 20 years? Or was that?
Oh, no, that's exactly. I worked. I worked during school.
Oh, okay.
ABM school, and then taught, and then did private practice after that. So it wasn't quite 20, but total.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Well, that is just fascinating.
it was really
what
fun.
a varied career. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how many doctors actually get this combined degree? It's not very common, is it?
You mean, not as many in law, although there are a fair number, but in my business school, there were 8 of us, 8 docs who were in the program.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
If I had it to do in retrospect, I probably would have gotten an MBA to begin with, because I think that for what I wanted to do, that was more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I ended up, as you know, in Austin. I've been here for about 7.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another thing that happened purely by luck. I met Chris through running and racing, and she went to college in California. And we you could say we sort of came from the same part of the country because she grew up in Anchorage, and then she was came out here to do her PhD in psychology at University of Texas, and then stayed to teach. So we went back and forth for a while. She was kind of looking for something she might like out there and didn't really find it. And I said, I think I'm ready to leave California, and I loved Austin for visiting out here and being here in business before. And I didn't realize until I moved how ready I was to leave California.
Yeah.
And it's been great here. Austin is such a tremendous city. It's culturally, academically, athletically. Everyone's really athletic here. There's tons of running groups, cycling groups, great tennis clubs. I belonged to a tennis club for a while, and and we lucked into a really good area in town where we bought our house, and there's everything within a couple miles. There's every kind of restaurant and shopping. Everything's kind of moving out this way from downtown as the population moves out here.
Yeah.
And within 10 minutes or less, we have 2 country clubs. I eventually switched from tennis and running to cycling and golf, although I'm now back in running, and joined one of the country clubs. And I probably in the last year played about 200 rounds of golf, which is one of the things that keeps you sane during all this.
That's great.
And done a lot of running with some of the groups the last few months. Back to running with groups. And what else? It is great.
If you look back at South, is there any teacher that was particularly inspiring to you?
Oh, definitely Richard Mossman in math. And also John Erickson. Did you have John in English, Alan?
I think, pardon me?
Did you have John in English, John Erickson?
I did not, just for the tennis coaching. Yeah. Did you have it for English?
I had it for English as well, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are 2 of the, and then 2 of the professors I remember most. And I remember last reunion, we were talking about inviting professors or teachers to the reunion, and those were 2 that I wanted. Of course, John Erickson was able to come. I guess Mr. Mossman wasn't, but
yeah, he's recently passed away.
Oh, he did. Oh, that's
yeah.
so sad.
I connected with he and his wife on Facebook, and I really was fond of Mr. Mossman and Mr. I really like Mr. Niebel. You and I were in the same physics class together.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was great.
I really liked him. But
yeah.
So
the other news out here, I guess, is the storm we had, which people have seen pictures and videos of, I'm sure, and it was record amount of snow and ice and cold, and it was a lot of fun while the snow was here, and our dog went crazy running around in the snow. But then reality started to set in, and there's a fair amount of damage. We thought the biggest financial impact was going to be our foliage, but it looks like a lot of it's coming back. Just had to cut it way back. The main thing now is the pool. A lot of the PVC pipe and some of the check valves on the pool had to be replaced. But then we started to fill it up and realized it's still draining. Somewhere underneath the pool, there's a leak. And I guess what happens is, I was wondering why it's different, but I guess in places where it regularly gets particularly cold, they bury the pipes pretty deep, and then in here they don't bother to. So
or they blow them out in the winter, Yeah. But you don't do that because you don't get that cold. Yeah. So, but
the pandemic hasn't been too bad. I continue those activities. Chris has been teaching online, and she already was, when it first happened, was teaching online anyway in several courses. And we've had several trips. We've done road trips, basically, just where we could drive. We went to South Padre Island, which is really beautiful, down on the Gulf Coast, and went to Horseshoe Bay, which you'd heard of, a great resort, a couple hours away, and then also up to the hill country to the German town of Fredericksburg this last week. And then we were people talked about Paris in the previous videos. I had reserved a great VRBO in Paris with a view of the Eiffel Tower for late May, and then we decided, you know what, even if we are allowed to go there, probably most attractions are going to be limited or closed. So instead, in June, we're going to Club Med, Turks and Caicos.
Oh, that'll be fun. Yeah. Well, I look forward to when we can travel the world again.
Yeah.
We're now all of the age where we want to do that. And
yeah.
Hopefully soon we'll be able to do that again, I hope.
Well, I just read something, an article in the Wall Street Journal about how they did surveys, and something like 25% of people would give up all of their savings to be able to travel, and nearly half would quit their jobs.
You were starting to say something, Ellen?
No, I was just wondering, Mark, so you're planning to come to the reunion, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no question.
It'll be
Yeah,
great.
I'm really looking forward to it. And it's great seeing you guys by video. It'd be even better seeing you in person.
Yeah, I think these videos are going to be a lot of fun, and I hope more people volunteer to do this because it's fun.
Oh,
to
I
see
hope
what
so.
People have been doing.
Yeah.
And it's great to see you guys, and hope to see you again soon, September.
Yeah, I'm just going to encourage people to go to southsalem70.com to register. Just that way you get information updates and the like, and then people will send out from there. But if just encourage people to go to southsalem70.com, then you get the reunion information. So
yeah, and also people who might not be in touch, if you know people from the class who might not be on sort of the list of the organizers, make sure and let them know about it, or tell the organizers what their contact information is.
exactly, that's exactly right. Good idea.
Good to see you all.
Hear the updates, Mark.
Yeah, great to talk to you guys.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.